Chapter 7. Adam looked over at Elle, who returned a courteous smile. That's all she'd given him these last 4 days. Polite nods, polite conversation, and polite smiles. Today was the last day of the Royal Ascot horse racing event, and they would be flying home tomorrow. Besides coming to the horse race, they explored Westminster Abbey, the National Art Gallery, and Kensington Palace. It was great to be together, but Adam wished he could somehow break through the barrier that Elle had placed around herself. He realized now that he shouldn't have brought up the topic of her dad. After all these years, the heartache of her loss was still too painful. Adam decided he would need to be careful not to press her on that topic. Maybe they could go back to being good friends again. He may not fall in love, but he still missed the friendship they had started to grow together. Ready for Justice's last race? Adam leaned over and whispered in Elle's ear. Yes, I'm really looking forward to it. He looks to be in fine form today, too. As usual, Elle beamed as her gaze swept through the lineup of horses at the starting gate. What he wouldn't give for his wife to look at him like that. Maybe the surprise he had for her later on today would earn him at least a quarter of the smile she'd given that horse. Looks like we're in for a great horse race today. The announcer's booming voice came over the speaker. Most horse enthusiasts here today believe that this is really a match race between Nightshade and Justice. The horses bolted out of the starting gate, and it wasn't too long before it was Justice and Nightshade in the lead, racing toward the finish line. Around the last bend in the racetrack, Justice worked his way forward and won the race by 2 full lengths. That was amazing. I love that horse. There's just something so special about him. Elle sighed and looked at Adam. Thank you so much for bringing me here. It's been wonderful. You are very welcome. Adam placed his hand on the small of her back as they walked out of the royal enclosure. I have a surprise waiting for you, but we'll need to take a short walk to see it. Her green eyes widened with a mixture of pleasure and confusion. A surprise for me? I can't wait. Elle followed at his side as they walked along the sidewalk toward the rows of buildings a little ways away from the racehorse. With each step, Adam got a little more nervous. He hoped this surprise would help bring Elle back to her usual happy self. As the long red brick building that held the stables came into view, Elle grabbed Adam's hand. Do I get to see Justice up close? Yes. They walked toward the stable, where the owner was waiting with his groomsman, holding the reins of the horse. Oh my goodness, may I? Elle asked the groomsman if she could touch the horse. With his nod, she ran a hand down his neck, petting and talking to him the whole time. It wasn't long before the racehorse got restless and the groomsman walked Justice back to his stall. When they started walking back to the penthouse, Adam spoke. Elle, since your birthday is next week, I thought I'd surprise you early. Adam ran a hand through his hair, watching Elle closely. That was a great gift to see Justice up close. Thank you. No, that wasn't your birthday present. Your gift is that horse. I bought Justice for you. Elle turned to look at him, her eyes as wide as he'd ever seen them. You didn't? You bought him for me? Tears started flowing down her cheeks, and they didn't stop until the driver opened the car doors for them at the penthouse. I did. So, do you like your surprise? Adam asked as they stepped into the suite. Yes, it's wonderful, Adam, but it's too much. I don't think I should accept such an extravagant gift. Elle's lashes were wet, and her green eyes shone brighter. Well, I think you should. It's the perfect gift for a horse lover like you, cowgirl. Adam leaned against the door, amazed that she would consider refusing that horse. She flushed at his nickname for her. It's a perfect gift. Dad told me when I was 10 or so that someday I'm going to get you a real racehorse that we'll take to the races and see win. He never got a chance to do that. Elle wiped away more tears. I'd given up hope on that dream, and now you've given me a chance to have it back. I'm sorry your dad never had a chance to get you a racehorse. Maybe he'd be okay with you having this horse now. Adam stepped closer to Elle, his thumb tucked in his belt loop, uncertain of what to say. Tears always made him feel so helpless. Maybe he would. The skin on her forehead puckered as she thought about it. Okay, I will accept that beautiful horse, only if I can race him like my dad would have wanted me to, as sort of a tribute to him. I'm glad. And Adam? Elle walked over to him, putting her arms around his waist, and kissed his cheek. She stepped back quickly, her face flushed. Thank you for the best birthday gift ever. You're welcome. Now, why don't you change into something a little more comfortable, and we'll relax a little. I'll order us a light meal. Adam walked over to the kitchen to get a drink of water. He needed some space away from Elle, or most likely he'd kiss her senseless. All right. Adam ordered their food. It didn't take long for their meal to arrive, and they sat together on the couch eating their deli sandwiches. Elle had changed into pink sweatpants and a fitted white t-shirt. With her hair hanging down, she had that carefree girl-next-door look that captivated him. Do you mind if I ask you something personal? Elle wiped the crumbs from her mouth with her napkin and set the empty plate down on the coffee table. Go ahead. I've been wondering why you didn't ask someone else to be your fake wife. Elle fidgeted with her hands on her lap. I mean, my friend Bella showed me some pictures of the beautiful and elegant women you've dated. You could have had someone like that. Instead, you got me. Elle flushed to the roots of her hair. Sorry, forget I asked. You don't need to answer that. No worries. How about this? I'll answer that question if you'll answer one of mine, all right? Adam put his arm on the back of the sofa and waited. Okay, that's fair. Elle shifted a little, picking at the lint on her sweatpants. First of all, Bella's right. I did date a few women. Adam felt a little exposed telling Elle this, but he wanted honesty between them. He wanted to gain her trust, which meant he needed to share from his heart. Most of the time when I dated, it was for a charity gala or business dinner. But I didn't feel anything more than friendship with any of them. That is, until I met Alicia. Alicia? Elle's gaze fixed on him. Yes, Alicia Wentworth. She's a model and the only daughter of a prominent family. My ego told me she was just what I needed. We got engaged. I started to plan out our perfect life together until one day I went to her apartment and found her with another guy. So I ended it. Adam glanced at his hand on the couch, a frown gathering on his forehead as he remembered. I found out later she only wanted to marry me for my money. That was a little hard to take. I'm so sorry you went through that. It sounds like you're better off without someone like that. Elle put her hand over his, squeezing gently. His hand tingled with the warmth of her touch. I am, but that was 3 years ago, and I haven't had a serious relationship since. That is, until we got married. Adam reached for her hand and began toying with the ring on her left hand. Oh, Elle bit her lip and glanced away, feeling a little insecure about their relationship. Yeah, it's true. But back to your question. You want to know why I didn't pick any of those other women to be my wife? Because none of them had what you have, real compassion and honesty that is so hard to find nowadays. Adam spoke sincerely from the heart. He believed those things about Elle. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Elle let go of his hand and grabbed the pillow beside her, hugging it to her body. She peered up at him. Thank you. I just call it how I see it. Adam grinned and took a sip from his water bottle before he spoke again. So, now it's your turn. Okay, ask away. Elle hugged the pillow even closer to her body and peered up at him. She looked adorable. Why did you decide to do this pretend marriage with me, even though it was clear from the beginning this was something you definitely did not want to do? That's really putting me on the spot, but that's okay because we agreed. Elle looked down at the white-knuckled grip she had on the pillow. She loosened her fingers a little and took a deep breath before she answered. I don't suppose because I needed the money to pay the mortgage on my father's ranch would be a good enough reason. For Al, it was the truth, but he already knew that. Not on your life. It was disconcerting how Adam watched the play-by-play of emotions on her face. She knew from Joanna that her every expression revealed what was going on inside her heart. Al took a few seconds to really think about her answer. Well, quite honestly, in the last year, it has been more and more difficult to live in the same house with my stepmother and stepsister. Al bit her lip before she continued. I've done my best to be kind and helpful just like my dad would have wanted, but it's like Lilith wants more than I have to give. I can't keep up, and I feel like I'm a failure every day because of it." Elle sighed heavily, her shoulders drooping in rhythm with the sound. "So one of my answers to your question is that I was grateful to have a way out from all of my stepmother's demands." "I can see why that would be difficult. It would be hard for anyone to be treated that way." Adam shook his head, his forehead furrowed as if trying to solve a problem. "I don't mean to complain. Sure, I've worked hard, but I've also been so grateful to keep the horse therapy programs going for the children. I have a lot to be thankful for." Elle toyed with the ends of her long hair. "I don't see it as complaining. You're just explaining how hard it's been for you, and I appreciate you telling me. It helps me understand you better and what's been going on in your life." "Thanks for that. So, are there any other reasons why you decided to say yes to my proposal?" Adam's half-smile and the way his eyes crinkled charmed Elle. "Yes, there is one other thing. I knew that you would treat me fair and be kind, which is something I haven't had a lot of in the past few years." Elle tucked her hair behind her ears, thinking about how much of herself she had just revealed to Adam. In that moment, Elle knew she really did believe Adam would be kind to her and treat her with fairness. She thought of how he had helped her on the ranch and how he had treated her with respect on their wedding day. Later, he'd outdone himself when he'd taken her to the Royal Ascot race course and bought justice for her birthday. He really had gone above and beyond in all that he'd done for her. Doubt started to creep in, chipping away at the layers of hurt and anger she'd held against him for years. The man she saw before her now would have done whatever he could to help her dad. Was it possible that Joanna Kingsley was right, and Adam played no part in her father's accident all those years ago? She frowned as she continued to think it through. "Hey, are you okay? For a moment there, it looked like you were having some troubling thoughts." Adam pushed her hair gently away from her face, and she lifted her hand. Tingles of warmth created a new path where his fingers brushed her cheek with feather-like softness. Elle found it disturbing how she longed for Adam's touch. This growing awareness she had of him whenever he was nearby was unexpectedly disarming the carefully constructed barriers she'd placed around her heart. She reminded herself yet again that they'd both agreed this marriage wasn't real. They both agreed to part amicably after 1 year. They both agreed that they wouldn't fall for each other. Grabbing the water bottle, she took a sip in an effort to settle her nervousness. "Yes, I'm okay." "Good, and thanks for being honest with me." A corner of his mouth lifted. Sure, she had been honest, except for telling him that every day she was finding it harder and harder to control her wayward heart. Maybe what she needed was a good night's sleep. As if in response to that thought, she yawned. "I'm going to turn in and get some rest for our busy day tomorrow." Elle stood, picking up her water bottle. As she turned to go to the kitchen, she bumped into Adam. He grabbed her shoulders to steady her. Elle gripped his elbows so she wouldn't fall. "Sorry, I wasn't watching." She looked up at Adam, only to see his gaze searching hers before moving downward to her lips. She stood there motionless and unsteady, captivated by him. He hesitated slightly before he moved his head down, touching his warm lips to hers. His mouth paused, pulled away slightly, then prodded her lips, lingering as if pulling all the sweetness from the honeycomb. Her knees weakened, and she moved her hands around Adam's waist to steady herself. Prickles of awareness began in her belly, creating an unexplored pathway to her heart. Adam finally dragged his lips away from hers and pulled her into a warm embrace, holding her close for a few minutes. Sweet dreams. The warmth of his whisper tickled her ear before he stepped back. Grabbing the water bottle, he walked into the kitchen. Elle walked slowly to her bedroom door. Turning the handle, she looked behind her once to see Adam watching her, his eyes hooded. She quickly stepped into her room and closed the door. She let out a long sigh and leaned her head against the hard wood. Elle's thoughts launched into a tailspin. Round and round they went, like the clip-clop of horse hooves on a dirt track, picking up speed with every loop. She wanted to run away. She wanted to embrace him. She was scared she didn't know what she wanted.